If there's somebody in a high place, try to help me.
John Claude Muse was a desperate man with a heck of a story. He just needed someone to listen.
I want anybody that can help me to look to see what's happened in my case.
This man spent years in prison until our investigative team dug up the evidence that finally set him free.
Oh, baby.
I love you, baby.
Act 2 was when you were freed.
Yes.
And now there's Act 3. And Act 3 is the twist that could cost him much more now than all his days in prison. But we'll get to that in a moment.
And then I heard like horns beeping and going crazy horns, and my mom was screaming. The last thing I remember was her saying, "Jesus help us, we're gonna crash."
It all started 18 years ago with a deadly crash. 2 girls from the nearby town of Wauchula were saved, but their mother, Nona Moore, and 8-year-old sister Lindsay were not. A tractor trailer crushed their van, and John Claude Muse was driving the truck.
Without stopping, he come in and curve and come right in front of my truck.
John Claude said another driver cut him off and he swerved and flipped trying to dodge a crash.
The paint of the car is on the truck. Where he rubbed against me and he kept going.
This red car that sped away, the real culprit in that accident has never been found.
Never been found. They don't investigate it.
Prosecutors pinned it on John Claude and charged him with vehicular homicide, claiming that he must have dozed off behind the wheel.
Most definitely, he was alert.
There's the first problem with the case. The first witness on the scene shot down the sleeping trucker theory. But we discovered Juan Otero, a volunteer firefighter and future mayor, had never been interviewed.
Look how sharp that curve is. Watch that car. Okay? Dead asleep, you'd come right through here. You wouldn't have tried to make that curve.
There's the second problem. John Claude did appear to follow a sharp turn in the road while the state claimed he was asleep. We hired an accident reconstruction expert to prove it.
Their own diagram doesn't stand up to the physical evidence.
The state's diagram showing him missing the turn as though he was asleep did not match measurements from the scene.
The diagram is very, very deceiving.
Third problem with the case, we discovered the victim's own family forgave John Claude Muse, thought it was an accident and not a crime.
He needs to be set free, and we don't understand why no one will listen.
But the jury still convicted John Claude Muse of vehicular homicide in less than an hour. Which brings us to the fourth problem. We tracked down half the jury, and they all told us they thought John Claude got a bad rap.
I feel bad that it was an accident.
Well, you know, he truly doesn't seem to belong where he's at.
It does make me sit there and think, wow.
So how in the world did John Claude Muse get 15 years in prison?
Somebody would step up and help me. All you can say is thank you.
The road to freedom took 9 years, but John Claude finally got a new day in court, this time with the evidence we found and key witness Juan Otero on the stand.
The court's concerned more with the search for the truth.
The judge overturned the conviction and freed John Claude Muse with time served.
I hope the example of forgiveness and consideration will lessen your bitterness and allow you to proceed with a productive life.
That's exactly what he did. John Claude resumed his life as a trucker and a father.
When I go out, I go for 2 weeks. When I come back, they jump all over me. Daddy, daddy, daddy home, you know.
But over the Christmas holidays, he did not make it home. Would you believe a ride down a different country road took another sharp turn?
And the sheriff pulled me over on the highway and he said, "Put your hand in the air."
This time there was no crash. John Claude bought a semi-trailer that had been wrongly reported stolen. And a rural Georgia deputy figured he just caught the thief.
I said, "No, the trailer is not stolen. I got paper for the trailer inside my truck. I can show it to you." He said, "I don't want to see no papers."
So you spent the holidays in jail?
That's correct.
For stealing a trailer that you didn't steal?
That's correct.
And then ICE showed up with a detainer to deport him. How can that even happen?
I don't know.
Well, he said they discovered the mix-up over the trailer and apologized for jailing him through the holidays. But ICE had already flagged him to get deported to his birthplace of Haiti, even though he came here from Haiti as a kid and has been a lawful permanent U.S. resident for nearly 40 years.
Since I've been a little boy, I never stole, do stupid thing. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do the crazy thing that can put people in trouble.
It all goes back to getting that bad rap in court. Though his conviction was overturned, his record still shows time served for vehicular homicide. And under Trump-era immigration policy, that makes him what the president would call a bad hombre.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
And that alone can revoke your green card and get you deported.
So everybody's doing something.
Something?
Yes. What you doing in this house?
House?
And with that, John Claude Muse had to prepare to leave his home and family and try to figure out how to tell his little girl Jael goodbye.
Ours ready, ours sturdy, ours go.
But in the meantime, we fired off a lot of phone calls and emails to state and federal officials. It got the ball rolling on a clemency application, and before a hearing on that was even scheduled, we learned the immigration judge said he qualified for cancellation of removal, meaning he can stay pending a final review next year.
When I gave you that news, what went through your heart?
My whole family was in joy.
How did you celebrate that night?
My blood pressure went.
Which brings us now to the end of a journey that started with tragedy, delivered forgiveness along the way, and then salvation in the end.
And then we're gonna go out, go to a park, go do some little picnics. Yeah.
American justice does not come easy, but despite the bumps and flaws, John Claude Muse says after all this, it is still the best system on earth.
That's what this country is, the United States. There is justice. You just got to keep persisting, but there you'll find some justice in this country.
And that's the moral he wants us to take from all of his trials as we finally close the tale of John Claude Muse.
So at the end of the book, say hi.
Drive past the playgrounds and the fantasy attractions along Interstate 4, you'll find a searing reality.
Now, it doesn't look like a resort to me, not for kids, that is.
Of deserted stores, boarded up rooms, and crime.
If somebody runs up and takes somebody's cars, I've seen it right here.
D'Angelo Murray was telling us all about it when we were interrupted.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, it would have been some good footage, bro. Good footage.
By what may have been someone driving past us with a wad of cash and a gun.
Walking forward, riding down the street, got money in their hand, probably high on drugs. Down the street, I could have got shot. You could have got shot. You could have got shot.
This is the side of Florida politicians do not want you to see because they're taking the money intended to clean it up to enrich theme parks and resorts.
I walked around at nighttime. Not a problem. I feel safe with the kids.
According to our government, these streets, lined with putt-putt courses, hotels, game rooms, and ice cream parlors, are the ones that need help.
Good. Looks nice, cleanly, safe.
While these abandoned storefronts north of downtown Tampa, these streets north of the Orlando attractions do not. The government decides what and who needs help based on maps and zones politicians drew decades ago. And as communities change, for better, worse, they never updated the maps.
Most of them done business closed up because of the crime.
That's how suffering neighborhoods now get left behind, while one of the largest high crime zones in the state runs through the heart of Orlando's tourist district.
How would you describe it to the folks back home?
Family friendly. What else would you say?
You can take your kids here.
And that's how Florida steers millions in tax credits to fight crime, poverty, and blight into luxury department stores, luxury car dealerships, and the Universal Hotels and Resorts. After we dug into this program last year, the House Speaker told us this is abusing taxpayers and the people it's supposed to help.
It's a program that is not working.
And then the state approved another $2.6 million for the Universal Hotels and Attractions for hiring in what the state calls its high crime zone.
Do you think the city and state are mixing in some of the plot lines of the rides?
I wouldn't think so.
As a state senator, Geraldine Thompson tried to change this in the legislature for years. She says big money pushed back.
The businesses that are impacted have very effective lobbyists, have deep pockets, and so they go into a mode of maintaining the status quo.
Now, if you think steering tax credits for high crime and poverty into theme parks is a problem, and the state won't deal with it, you may think the city of Orlando could solve it.
I don't see anything that precludes the city from revisiting the boundaries and redrawing the boundaries.
But we found Orlando's mayor, Buddy Dyer, certified the high crime zone, as is, just last year. He sent records to the state, noting 72 murders in 2016 to back it up. He didn't mention the Pulse Massacre, an anomaly, accounted for most of those murders. It's more than enough to score Orlando's tourist district as the top-tier crime zone in the state, which the law defines as also exhibiting extreme levels of poverty, unemployment, and physical deterioration.
No, it doesn't sound right, but people take advantage of circumstances and incidents to justify the means to the end that they want to achieve.
We first asked Mayor Dyer for an interview on this back in May. His PR rep turned down our repeated requests. When we told her we'd note he declined an interview, she replied the media is able to attend his events for interviews, which brings us to this.
Well, probably better to do an interview once I've had some information rather than popping out of the bush and trying to do it that way.
Okay, well, we've sent you some information, we just haven't.
Okay. Before he walked away, we did ask what he'd say to tourists who may worry about the crime, poverty, and blight he certified around the resorts.
I wouldn't say that there's poverty and blight. That's not a given question, so.
And we asked him to square that with the documents he signed and submitted to the state.
The city's map shows 20 square miles of unacceptable levels of poverty and deterioration, blight, and high crime.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that.
If you get familiar with it, would you be willing to look at it and suggest changing it?
We have had crime come down every year for the last 4 or 5 years, so we think we're in a pretty good place relative to crime, and I'm not familiar with the maps or whatever you have that show all of Orlando being blighted.
To clarify, it does not show all of Orlando being blighted, because these blighted streets north of the resorts and attractions got excluded.
It's pure ignorance. Doesn't make any sense.
To which the mayor responded by claiming ignorance.
Well, it's the city's map. If you look at it, would you consider revising it if you think it doesn't accurately reflect the city's crime?
I'm just not familiar with what you're talking about.
Meanwhile, Governor Scott's administration is taking the position that high crime zones cannot be revised anyway. While the law does not prohibit updates, a spokeswoman noted it doesn't explicitly authorize them either. The bureaucrats take that to mean that crime zones are locked in place for the life of the program, even if all the crime goes away.
It's been clean so far. No complaints.
So they continue to approve millions intended for distressed neighborhoods into theme parks and resorts, while many distressed neighborhoods cannot get a dime.
But yeah, we got some really good theme parks that we can't go to, but we can pay $29.99 and go there all year. It's crazy, bro.
I think it's a little more than that.
Hey, sure.
And lawmakers like Geraldine Thompson say we are all getting burned.
Does this state law block cities from updating these zones?
It does not. It does not.
What would you tell tourists who would like to come to International Drive and the attractions, but they're scared off by all the high crime and deterioration and blight?
It doesn't exist. It's not there.
While the college admission scandal exposed students getting undue help on their exams, we started hearing and investigating claims of a different kind of cheating.
You think this could compromise national security?
Yes.
In one of the most sensitive parts of our government.
There's no proof that they were qualified.
Ted Carrier is a cyber defense analyst who worked for a contractor at U.S. Central Command inside Tampa's MacDill Air Force Base. They called him a mission-essential individual for computer network defense. He was responsible for protecting military secrets from hackers.
Now that could be troop movements, could be capabilities.
The Department of Defense requires ethical hacker certification to make sure its cyber defenders are ethical and can think like hackers to keep them from penetrating military computer systems. And that's where Carrier claims CENTCOM and taxpayers have a problem. To get certified, Carrier claims he and others got undue help on their ethical hacker exams. He says in March of 2017, the contractor they work for, SAIC, gave them this printout the day before they took the test that contain the same questions and answers as the test.
So we reviewed the questions and answers, thinking it was just something similar to what we'd see. But the next morning we realized that it was exactly the same questions and same answers as on the actual test.
Carrier is one of 5 sources we interviewed in our investigation, and all 5 tell the same story. 4 of them agreed to talk on camera.
It struck me badly. I was appalled.
Jim Restel is a retired lieutenant colonel who demonstrated outstanding performance and dedication to our nation, according to Lieutenant General Carol Pollitt, director of America's Defense Information System Agency in support of CENTCOM. Restel retired and then returned to CENTCOM as a civilian contractor for cyber defense. The Pentagon added certified ethical hacker requirements that he and others already doing the work did not have.
In order to do this job, you need to have this core base of knowledge, and all of a sudden you had people that don't have the core base of knowledge accomplishing the duty.
He said he was working for SAIC when its IT contract with CENTCOM came up for renewal in 2017, and managers rushed to certify the team.
They came verbally, they started saying, well, who do we have available to take the test? They said we need to have as many people in there because that makes us competitive.
He said they told him to attend a study session in which he, Ted Carrier, and around 20 other cyber defense coworkers were given this printout of questions and answers. He said they were told these were sample questions to prepare for the real exam. Restel said he then took the real exam the next morning.
Questions come on the screen, and it's exactly the same as we had in the test bank earlier. The sequence of the questions were different, but the actual questions and the answers were identical. Options A, B, C, and D were exactly the same, identical.
That is how he says he passed by inadvertently cheating.
If you didn't receive these questions in advance, would you have passed?
I can't tell you whether I would pass or not, but I was sweating it. I would probably say 50-50 chance.
That you may not have passed?
Yes.
Our third source is Mark Sigmund. He was a senior officer and team leader at the National Security Agency, recognized for extraordinary contributions by Lieutenant General Michael Hayden. He joined the same team as Restel and Carrier and said he got the same undue help before he took and passed the test.
This is a true strike against ethics.
Had you seen all those questions and answers in advance?
Yes.
Every single one?
Yes. To get them verbatim is cheating.
Sigmund now works as a senior intelligence analyst overseas. Our fourth source is a cyber defense analyst who did not want to show his face.
We were all told that we would be given some study material.
He said he worked on the same team as Restel, Carrier, and Sigmund and was given what they called a study guide.
It was a printout that looked like a test.
He said he got the same surprise when he took the exam and easily passed.
All of the questions were identical.
Word for word?
Word for word. Answer for answer.
He says he would have passed without getting answers in advance, but does not know whether his coworkers would have. He said he complained to his employer, but his complaint was dismissed.
We said somehow you guys cheated and we didn't think it was right.
SAIC told Fox 13 it investigated and determined the allegations are not credible. It said employees had access to practice exam questions distributed by a test prep vendor. It said the information is available for download online, access to it is not unethical, and the exam was administered by a third party, and that SAIC did not discuss the exam with that administrator. Undaunted, Carrier filed his claim of test cheating with CENTCOM. Lieutenant Colonel Earl Brown with CENTCOM told Fox 13 that CENTCOM referred the allegations to the General Services Administration for investigation in 2017, and the GSA contracting representative found nothing substantive. Meanwhile, SAIC won the bid in 2017 and got its contract for cyber defense and other IT services renewed for 7 years. The total IT contract is worth $621 million. Jim Restel took another job with the Federal Aviation Administration and now helps manage communications for flights going in and out of Washington, D.C. Ted Carrier took a job at a different defense contractor. He says he never accepted the certification for the test he passed.
Because it's unethical. I'm not going to unethically take the Certified Ethical Hacker certification.
CENTCOM has had some issues with cybersecurity in the past. In 2015, CENTCOM's Twitter and YouTube accounts were hacked, and in 2017, potentially sensitive information wound up on Amazon's web servers, where anyone with a free account could have read it. CENTCOM is planning to expand its cyber defense efforts this year. We posted the full statements from CENTCOM and SAIC on our website, fox13news.com.
We're about to show you how Florida politicians take from the disabled. But first, meet some of the people they're taking from.
Why'd she cover you with a sheet?
She thought I was dead.
Former police officer Jim Bragg nearly died in a high-speed chase. It crushed his spine and left him brain damaged. His short-term memory is shot.
And I forget where I'm going or why, and what I'm looking for, that type of stuff.
Former Officer Bob Brown walked into an ambush.
I was responding to a call of a man harassing kids at a playground.
The gunman ripped him with bullets.
And he shoots you immediately in the hand and then here in the upper chest.
Yes, he did.
Former Officer Joe Johnson got rammed by a dump truck and on his way to get treatment.
A woman ran a stop sign doing about 50 or 60, hit me broadside. I hit a tree and flipped 3 times.
He got crushed again.
I sustained like 80, 90 fractures. My lungs were punctured. My hips were broken. My shoulders, shoulder blades, and collarbones were broken.
These are the most wounded of our wounded.
And add former Officer Jim Bonford to the list. He was sickened by toxins, and then a bad guy dragged him from a car and crushed his legs.
When I opened up the car door, grabbed him by the shirt, put the car in the gear, and the car started moving forward.
Now his legs are in braces, and his arms can't stop shaking.
If it's at rest, it's doing it.
These are the kinds of stories that inspired Amendment 3. It gave disabled first responders living in Florida a break on their property taxes. In 2016, it passed with 84% of the vote. Then we discovered a catch.
No property tax relief at all. In fact, our taxes have gone up the last 3 years.
When we requested records from county property appraisers, we found nearly all of the disabled first responders living in Florida have been denied.
Well, I can tell you, I thought I missed something.
And Pasco appraiser Gary Joyner confirmed disabled first responders have a problem.
We had a list of 52 homeowners that had applied for it.
So 52 apply.
Yes, sir.
How many get it?
6.
That's just Pasco County. We found a couple of hundred others also injured in the line of duty. They are permanently and totally disabled according to the federal government. And now they're totally denied thanks to the Florida legislature.
That's kind of misleading, I think, in a little way to everybody.
After voters passed this tax break for disabled first responders living in Florida, the legislature and former Governor Scott disqualified most disabled first responders living in Florida.
Why would you turn around and deny me a benefit that the people of the state of Florida overwhelmingly approved?
State lawmakers unanimously passed a bill that excludes responders who were disabled while working for agencies out of state. It doesn't matter how long they've been living or paying taxes in Florida. A police officer crushed in New York, disqualified. Shot and disabled in New Jersey, disqualified. Brain damaged in South Carolina, disqualified.
And didn't even publicize it, so nobody knows.
And when we called the lawmakers, even they didn't know what they had passed.
So I was very disappointed when you told me today that anybody from New York or anywhere else cannot get the tax break.
In the flood of bills that came up for rapid-fire votes, lawmakers thought this one implemented the amendment as written on the ballot for disabled first responders living in Florida.
It wasn't clear, I think.
So you did not know this was excluding these first responders when you voted for it?
I don't believe that that's something that was discussed.
Well, Republican Senator David Simmons responded by filing a bill to lift the restrictions in the Senate. But as the filing deadline approached, House lawmakers like John Cortez had already maxed out on what they can file.
My 6 bills are gone. And I would have known, if I would have known that the Senate needed a sponsor, I would have dropped one of the bills and gladly took that one. Because that's a no-brainer. And that's our problem. We have a bad communication problem. We don't reach out to each other.
But the first responders may have caught a break when freshman lawmaker Adam Hattersley watched our last investigation.
A friend of mine sent me a link to one of the reports that you guys had done about this issue, and we started digging into it. I was frankly shocked.
Simmons, a Republican, and Hattersley, a Democrat, are now leading a bipartisan push to reverse what we exposed and give first responders the help they say they deserve.
And they deserve that protection, and it's expressly what the voters voted for. There was no stipulation that it had to be in Florida. I was disappointed that we would not only supersede the clear will of the voters in the language of the Constitution, but that we would even consider treating first responders and veterans this way. We owe them more than that. Once we are made aware of it, we have to move forward to try to fix it and do what's best for the citizens of Florida.